Okay, so today we're diving deep into Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ooh, a classic.
Yeah, yeah. And we're not just gonna, like recap the plot or anything like that. I mean, we're gonna use a really detailed summary as like our guide.
Right.
But what we really want to do is get to those like core insights and, maybe figure out why this book still matters so much, like to everyone. Why is it still considered such a powerful, I don't know, piece of American literature?
Well, I think that's what we're going to try to find out, right?
Yeah, it's
So
like
like think of us as your guides through this, this really important story. I mean, whether you read it years ago or you're just discovering it, we're going to extract those essential pieces and really unpack them for
okay,
you.
so let's just jump right in. So we're in Macomb, Alabama in the
Mhm.
1930s, and it's like this, like a slow-paced southern town.
Yeah.
But like beneath the surface, there's this really clear segregation everywhere. And we see all this through the eyes of our narrator. Scout Finch, this like super sharp, young girl.
Oh yeah.
She's just observing everything.
It's so clever how Harper Lee uses her perspective, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like Scout's this innocent kid,
yeah,
but she's dealing with these like really heavy adult issues. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean, like racism, prejudice, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
So Scout lives with her brother Jem, who's older,
Yeah.
and their dad Atticus,
Okay.
and he's kind of a big
Yeah,
deal.
he is, yeah.
Like he's a lawyer, but he's also like, the moral compass of the whole story.
Totally, yeah. Like the voice of reason in this town.
Yeah. And then you've got Calpurnia,
Oh, yeah. She's great.
their housekeeper. But she's like way more than that. I mean, she's really like a mother figure to Scout and Jem.
She really is, yeah. Like a guiding presence.
Yeah, exactly.
So then summer rolls around,
Mm.
and this kid Dill comes to visit, and he's all about adventure.
Yeah.
Gets Scout and Jem into all sorts of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we first meet Boo Radley.
Oh, Boo Radley.
Yeah.
The name just like makes you think of like mystery, like
So
something's hidden.
things like everyone in town knows his name, but no one really knows him.
Yeah, he never leaves his house, basically.
Yeah, so he becomes this like this almost mythical figure.
Like scary almost.
Yeah. Well, to the kids at least.
Yeah, for Scout, Jem, and Dill, he's like, he's like this monster in the shadows, right?
They think at first, yeah.
But then something really interesting happens.
Right, right.
They start trying to like connect with him,
Yeah.
leaving notes and stuff.
Daring each other to go knock on his door.
Right.
It's all fun and games, really.
Until they start finding things like little gifts in this knothole of a tree.
Hmm. That's interesting. Like little trinkets and stuff.
Yeah. It's like Boo's way of reaching out, but really quietly.
Yeah.
Makes you think he's not so scary after all, right?
I mean, he could just be lonely, right?
Maybe even like watching over them.
Yeah.
Like a guardian angel or something.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how we judge people based on what we hear, right?
For sure. So while all this is going on with Boo Radley, the kids are also starting to see the not so pretty side of Macomb,
Hmm.
like the racism and stuff.
It's like a constant undercurrent in their lives.
Yeah. And it's like they're just kids,
Yeah.
but they're starting to realize like the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what leads us to the really big conflict in the book, right?
Yeah.
When Atticus decides to defend Tom Robinson.
Right.
Now, for anyone who hasn't read the book, Tom's a black man who's been wrongly accused of something pretty awful, a crime against a white woman.
Yeah.
And in the South, in the 1930s, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
for a white lawyer to defend a black man like that,
It was unheard of.
yeah, it was a huge deal. I mean,
Yeah.
people saw it as a threat.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like Atticus was going against everything
It's
everyone
certainly-
believed in.
But, Atticus is Atticus, right?
Right.
He's not going to back down from what he thinks is right.
Yeah, no matter what.
And he tries to teach Scout and Jem about that.
Yeah, about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard.
Exactly. Like being empathetic.
Yeah, like walking in someone else's shoes, right?
That's a phrase he uses, yeah. And he really lives by it.
And so as the trial gets closer, things get pretty tense.
Yeah,
Like people start giving Scout and Jem a hard time,
uh-huh.
and then their Aunt Alexandra comes to stay with them.
Oh, yeah. She's a piece of work.
She is, and she's all about like, tradition and how things should be.
Like very proper.
Yeah, and she tries to like mold Scout into this like, proper Southern
Oh,
lady.
Bet Scout loved that.
Oh, she hated it. I mean,
Yeah.
Scout's like, oh, tomboy, you know?
Yeah, she's not about those rules.
Not at all. But then we get to the trial.
Okay, the big moment.
And it's intense. I mean,
Yeah.
Atticus, he puts on this really strong defense
He does, yeah.
for Tom Robinson. Like, he points out all these inconsistencies in the testimonies, right?
Like he's trying to poke holes in their stories.
Yeah. And it's like he's making it so clear that Tom is innocent.
But that's the thing about prejudice, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, even when the truth is right there,
Yeah.
people don't want to see it.
And it's like the courtroom is packed.
Oh, I bet.
And everyone's watching. And Atticus, he's just so calm.
He always is.
Yeah. And he's like going through the evidence piece by piece.
Right.
And there's this one moment where it's just like, whoa.
Okay, what happens?
So Tom Robinson, his left arm is like permanently injured, right?
Yeah.
And Atticus, he's like showing everyone how it would have been physically impossible for Tom to have done what he's accused of because of his arm. And it's like, in that moment, everything's so clear. But the jury still finds Tom guilty.
Ugh, that's awful.
I know, it's heartbreaking. And you can see how much it affects Jem.
Yeah, I bet he's crushed.
Yeah, he's like totally disillusioned, you know? Like, you just can't believe it.
Oh, yeah, and how could you?
It's like all that evidence,
Yeah.
all that logic,
Yeah.
and it didn't matter.
Because of prejudice, pure and simple.
Yeah. And then it gets even worse. Tom, he tries to escape from prison,
Oh, and then-
and he gets shot and killed.
Ugh, that's just...
It's devastating. You know, it's like Tom never had a chance.
It's like the system was rigged against him from the start.
Exactly. So after the trial, Bob Ewell, you know, the one who accused Tom,
Yeah, what about him?
well, he's furious.
Yeah.
Like, Atticus totally humiliated him in court.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so he starts harassing Atticus
Oh, no.
and even threatens Tom's widow.
That's horrible.
And then one night when Scout and Jem are walking home from a school thing,
No.
Bob Ewell, he attacks them.
Oh, my God.
I know, it's scary, and they're like totally defenseless.
And then, what happened?
Someone steps in and saves them. And guess who it is?
I don't know who.
Boo Radley.
What? Really?
Yeah, he's like their protector all along.
That's amazing. I mean, like, it totally flips everything we thought about him.
Right, like he was never this monster. He was like watching over them the whole time.
Wow. So what happens to Bob Ewell?
He's dead. Boo killed him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the sheriff, Heck Tate,
Yeah.
he decides to cover it up.
Really? Why would he do that?
He says it would be like killing a mockingbird to expose Boo, you know, to put him on trial.
Oh, I see.
Like Boo's this innocent figure who doesn't belong and all that, you know?
Like he's been through enough already.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
Scout, she finally gets it, you
Yeah.
know? Like she realizes Boo's not this monster.
Right. He's just different.
Yeah. And there's this really sweet moment at the end
Okay.
where Scout walks Boo home, you know? Like she's taking care of him.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's like she's finally learned to see things from his perspective.
Like Atticus taught her.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
like, stepping back, I mean, what are the big themes here?
Well, obviously, racial injustice is huge. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the foundation of the whole story.
Yeah. And then there's this whole idea of, like, moral growth.
Right. Especially with Scout and Jem.
Yeah. They start out so innocent.
Yeah. And they go through so much.
And they learn about empathy, about compassion.
And then there's the Mockingbird symbol.
Right. Yeah.
Like it represents innocence, you know? People who are hurt for no reason.
Like Tom Robinson
Yeah.
and Boo Radley.
Exactly. It's such a powerful image.
And then, I mean, the whole book is basically a coming-of-age story, right?
Yeah.
Like, we see Scout grow up.
Right before our eyes.
Yeah.
She has to face some really tough stuff.
Yeah. And it changes her.
And I think that's why this book is still so powerful today, you know?
Yeah.
It makes us think about empathy, about justice, about, I don't know.
About humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, our listener, like, what should you take away from all of this? I mean, we've seen how prejudice can really mess things up, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it can blind people to the truth.
And it can hurt innocent people.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen how important it is to, like, really try to understand other people's perspectives.
Yeah, to walk in their shoes.
Right. And I think, you know, when we look at what's happening in the world today, like, with all the talk about systemic inequality and stuff, it's like this book is still so relevant, you know?
It makes you think.
It does. So here's something for you to think about. You know how we see this whole story through Scout's eyes, right? Like through the eyes of a child. Well, how do you think that changes things? Like, how does that affect how we see injustice? you know?
I mean, it's like seeing the world with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes it even more impactful, you know?
It could. Yeah.
And maybe it makes us think about, like, who are the mockingbirds in our own lives?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Like, who are the innocent people who need our protection, you know?
Makes you think.
It does. And I think that's what Harper Lee wanted us to do,
Yeah, I think so too.
to really think about these things, you know?
Yeah.
And to try to make the world a better place.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Exactly.
That's all we can do, right?
I think so.
Keep those conversations going.
Yeah, for sure.